So here we are in the third Sunday of Advent, the Sunday of joy. I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot to be joyful for this Christmas season. It's been a heavy fall on the international scene. You know, in September, we saw the images of little Alan Kurdi, the 2-year-old boy whose body was washed up on the beach. And with that image, our eyes were opened to an incredible plight of millions of Syrians fleeing from their war-torn country. And then you got the bombings in Paris and the mass shootings in the U.S. at the Planned Parenthood and then San Bernardino. And with that, the understanding, that the knowledge of the fact that in the U.S. there are more mass shootings than days in a year. Just shocking. So my question this morning is, how do we celebrate Christmas in these troubling times? I know what you're thinking. Great, this is going to be a cheery sermon. Don't worry, I've instructed the ushers to have some little packets of Cymbalta and Prozac, or maybe to hand out at the end of the service, or maybe just some spiked eggnog. But it does seem a little Pollyanna, a little falsely cheery to be saying, you know, Merry Christmas to everyone, when it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot to be merry for. I mean, I've mentioned the things on the world scale, in the world around us, and yet I know that many of you are struggling with your own personal issues, whether it's health-related or relationships or finances, that make it difficult to feel anything close to resembling to joy. So how do we do it? Well, I suggest that we take a couple lessons from two little-known people in the Bible, Anna and Simeon. This is a story that takes place, the story that Anne read takes place after the birth of Jesus, after Christmas, but it's a story that has Advent written all over it, because these two people were waiting for this baby to be born before anybody seemed to know anything about a child coming. Is there an image up there of Simeon? There we are. There are two things in this story that I want us to take home and to remember. The first one is that God in human form, Jesus Emmanuel, God with us, did not come to the world because life was perfect, because the world was a great place and deserving of God coming to the world. Just the opposite. The first thing that we need to remember is that Jesus was born to save us from a very troubled world and to save us from our own struggles, from our own imperfections, from our own hurts and habits and hang-ups. And that message is loud and clear all through the scriptures, from the prophet Isaiah. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Why? For unto us a child is born. Even Simeon is described as a man who lived in the prayerful expectancy of help for Israel. In other words, Jesus was born for such a time as this. In other words, Jesus was born for such a person as you and the struggles that you are going through today. That's the first thing I want you to remember. The second that I want you to remember and notice is that we have to wait for Christmas. Now, what does that waiting look like? It's not a waiting that has us curled up in bed with the covers over our head, just waiting for the dawn to come. Instead, it's more like a waiting that has us going out at night and looking down the road to see if we can see the lights of the person that you know is coming. It's a waiting that's active. In a way, I think the English language, the word waiting isn't quite the right word, because waiting sounds a little too passive, right? Maybe a word like looking is a better description. We need to look for Christmas, because that's something that we have to do. You're engaged in it. Simeon is described as living in prayerful expectation. I love that phrase, prayerful expectation. Our job is to stand and to say, look, do you see that light? Do you see that light? That's what Simeon and Anna were doing. Anna was 84 years old. Actually, the different translations, she's either 84 plus, however age she was. Never mind. We'll call her 84. She was old. Easy. All right. Anyway. But as she was, again, she had that prayerful expectancy to her. Because when the child comes in, she recognizes the child and begins praising God. She begins praising God, and it's an awesome thing. In spite of the fact that her life could not have been easy. I mean, we don't know, well, there's only like a few verses on Anna, but we know that she was only married for 7 years and then was a widow, and she lived at the temple the whole time. And that sort of suggests that she probably had nobody else to look after her, and that she depended on the goodwill of those who came in and out of the temple to care for her and to look after her. And so even though she probably had not an easy life, nevertheless, she was looking beyond herself, looking beyond her challenges for the one who was coming. Mary and Joseph coming into the temple that day would not have been an unusual sight. This was something that Mary and Joseph had to do as mandated by the law of Moses. They had to bring their firstborn son in to be dedicated to God. I don't know how many families came in with their baby boy sons, every day to the temple, but I'm guessing there were several. So how is it that Anna and Simeon, were able to recognize the Christ child when he walked in? I think the answer is simply that they were looking for the Christ child. They were looking for that light. And that's the reason that Simeon was able to bless the child and able to say to God, "Master, now you are dismissing your servant in peace, for my eyes have seen your salvation, a light for the revelation to the Gentiles and for glory to your people Israel." I believe that the light of the Christ child is all around us. But it's not always easy to see. And our job as Christians is to become professional lookers for the light. Our job is to be continually pointing and saying, look at that light, and showing it to everyone around us, and therefore reflecting the light of Christ. I saw it this week in a heartwarming story. You probably heard or saw this story on the news of a small Ontario town, St. George, that decided to celebrate Christmas early. And nodding your heads. Just in case you didn't catch it, news stories, come and go pretty quickly. They celebrated Christmas 2 months early because of a little boy, Evan Leversage, who had he had a brain tumor, and had been struggling with brain cancer from the age of 2. And doctors had told the family that he likely wouldn't live to Christmas. And Evan's favorite thing was Christmas, so the family decided that they would celebrate Christmas early. But one of the things he loves most about Christmas is the Christmas lights on houses. So the family asked their neighbors, would you mind putting up your Christmas lights early? And they totally, were game for that and put their lights up. And then it just snowballed. The whole town got into it. The town decided to decorate the streets early for Christmas. And then they decided to have a parade early in October for Christmas. A company came and put artificial snow on their lawn for the big day. 7,000 people came to this. I don't know how many people come to our Christmas parade, but I doubt it's 7,000. 7,000 people descended on this tiny town outside of Brantford for this Christmas parade for Evan. And Evan asked his mom at one point, he said, why are they doing this? And his mom said, because you have a whole town that loves you. Evan didn't make it to Christmas. This past Sunday, a week ago Sunday, he passed away. But he passed away knowing he was loved, knowing he was a special child. Take a look at this. Little 7-year-olds should not be dying of cancer. But as Christians, we are called to witness to the light that surrounds, the light and love that is all around us. That love that was so evident in Evan's last few months and weeks. The love that still supports and surrounds his family. That's just one example. This is another example. This is light and love hanging around us that's going to be shared with so many in our community. Another is little baby Lena coming home after 180 or 100 and something days in hospital. That's another example of the light. It's all around us. One of these days or years, we will go and live with that light eternally when it's our turn to pass from life through death into eternal life. And we will be filled with that incredible light and love. But even here on earth, it's all around us. Our job is to see it, to reflect it, to shine for others. Lots of people at this time of the year are affected by SADS, seasonal affective disorder, as the days grow shorter and the nights get longer. But we can get an internal SADS too from the events of the world, from all of the heaviness and the silliness and the horrible things that go on in the world and in our lives. Jesus was born to set us free. The light of Christ came in this little baby like the light of a small flickering candle. And that light grew. That light gives life. Light and life to all he gives. This Christmas, my hope and prayer is that you will look and see the light of Christ, that you will take it into your life, that you will hold it there and share it and reflect it with those around you. As we've done in previous years, I'm going to invite you to take a candle and to light a candle of light. This candle for you might be a candle for someone who's not here this Christmas that you very dearly wish was. It might be a candle of lighting in the darkness of difficult events in the world. It might be a candle of hope, something you need to make a change, something that you need to do in your life. Whatever that means for you, I'm going to invite you to come down, and Pastor Dave and I will light a candle and stick them in one of the center boxes. I ask you to be mindful of the fact that we're working with fire, and to fill up center and back boxes first so that people aren't reaching over with sleeves across the fire. Don't put a candle just on the edge, fill up the middle and the far bits first, just as a safety. Come on down the middle aisles and return through these aisles here. Oh, here come the kids. And, and through the side aisles. Okay, hang tight. Let me just get out of the way, and we'll light a light, and Keith will play some music while we do that.